Hello there, World of Tankers. Welcome to the channel. Hopefully all of you are doing well out there. I'm, of course, your host, Untitled Blitz, and in today's video, we are finally going to be talking about the AMX M4 MLE54, the Tier 10 French Collector Heavy that has come out this Blitz Fair. Now, if many of you don't know, I just live streamed me opening over 120 crates. Now, it did not cost me literally like the most money. I'm actually very surprised how little it cost me, but pretty much the reason I was able to get it so cheap is because I already had all the vehicles in the snow globe. So pretty much every time I opened a snow globe, it would give me a tank and then just give me the gold value of that tank, and then I'd put it back into opening these, and then I'd go back into a snow globe. So if you own every single vehicle but the AMX, your chances of getting the AMX might cost you about $100 to $200, which isn't terrible, but at the same time, still quite expensive for a tier 10 vehicle when you could get your hands on a tank for free with just one free snow globe. So I would definitely suggest to not spend your money trying to get the AMX M4. It is always, in the best of regards, not to spend your money, in my opinion, on these events. Just do the free grinding, get the free snow globe, get the T26 E3 Eagle 7. You will feel happy. If you spend money and you don't get your hands on the AMX and you don't get your hands on snow globes, you're going to feel so disappointed because it's a lot of money. You open up 10 of those gold boxes, that's 15,000 gold, and you could literally get nothing out of them. And that's a bit of a shame, in my opinion. So, getting your hands on the AMX is obviously very slim to none. In fact, the reason I got it was because I was able to open up 10 of the crates, and I managed to land on the charms. So I got very lucky that I managed to actually get the snow globes very, very easily. Normally, 10% drop chance would take you about 15 crates on average, so yeah, about 22,000 gold per snow globe. So getting your hands on the AMX, I'm going to say already, is not worth it. Don't spend your money on this tank. If you think you're going to get it, you really aren't, unless you want to spend $500 on average. Yeah, not necessarily the best of things. However, moving on to the tank, if you do get your hands on this vehicle, or you find yourself coming up against it, not only am I going to be talking about the armor profile, I'll be showing you two replays that I literally just had, as I was literally just live streaming about 10 minutes ago. So we're going to be doing the full down review on this tank, the armor, everything else like that. So please consider smashing that subscribe button down below if you enjoy today's video. But first of all, talking about the statistics of this vehicle. Well, one of the biggest issues I've noticed about this tank is the sheer size of the vehicle. It's massive, and what that means is that when you think you're behind cover, you sometimes aren't. It's kind of like the M6 Experimental, but look at the size of this thing. It's massive. It makes a 50B turret look small. So it definitely has some issues on the size of the tank. It's going to cause it to fall apart in some areas where you're out in the open. Sheridan's ripped this thing apart, but the armor on the tank, as you can see, the base armor already is super duper strong, but we'll be breaking into the armor inspector so you can see the actual armor values. But talking about the tank's mobility, it's quick. It goes 45 kilometers per hour forward, 20 in reverse. It's got a ridiculous power to weight of 19, and this is the thing that I said was overcooked about the vehicle, is for it being a French super heavy, it is way too mobile. That was the biggest killer, is how fast it goes. 20 in reverse. It's ridiculous. So I do think that this tank is definitely stronger than every tier 10 heavy currently in Blitz, but I don't think it's overpowered. I just think it's stronger than the IS-4 and the Kronwagen currently, which is very, very good when you do think about it. The other thing that's good about this tank is the gun. While its aiming time isn't the best and the dispersion isn't the strongest, the good thing about this tank is the damage per minute at 2,400. Of course, because I am running calibrated. So it's about 2,600 if you're running Rammer, and it's got super duper high penetration for the premium because, of course, it's got AP on the premium, which means that you can easily cut through any angled armor because AP has 3 degrees of shell normalization. It does 480 average damage, 400 on the premium, and 620 on the HE. So very nice stuff there. 8 degrees of gun depression, very flexible in any terrain, and as well 2,650 hit points. This pretty much makes, in my opinion, the IS-7 obsolete. It's just as quick as an IS-7, in fact, quicker on any terrain. It's got more gun depression, it's got higher average damage, it's got better premium pen. It's just a better IS-7 in my personal opinion. But not only is it a solid vehicle, let's go take a look at the armor, and you'll see just what makes it such a strong tank. So let's go over to the armor inspector. Now, looking at the armor of the vehicle, oh boy, is this thing ridiculous. The upper plate, 315 millimeters. That's with Cali. If you take it off, yeah, it's strong. The upper plate on this tank, even with heat shells, you gotta struggle to pen through. Now, you can pen it with heat. It is possible, especially if you're running Cali. You can go right through it with your average tier 10 heavy, which makes it very, very weak, unless it's using gun depression. Then, yeah, 420 millimeters millimeters thick. Good luck getting through that. Even a vehicle, let's say like a tank destroyer here, an Object 268, still cannot get through the upper plate of this vehicle with the AP or the heat. As you can see, if you're just using your max gun depression, it's nearly impossible to penetrate the upper plate on this vehicle. So it's got super thick armor, but at the same time, don't expect to be bouncing shells from tank destroyers and heavy tanks frontally when you're on flat ground. You can see that they can easily penetrate right through you. So you want to use a bit of your gun depression, and that's when your shells will do a great job of bouncing, as you can see. The turret armor is ridiculously thick. That mantlet is literally impenetrable. It does also have ridiculously thick sides. This doesn't count as armor. The biggest weak spots I've noticed that I've actually been shot on is, first of all, this cupola right here. You'd think that it's the back one that people shoot at, but no, it's actually this one here. This one is only about 180 millimeters thick, and the other cupola as well will only be about 150. You can easily pen those. You can see that this one is a little bit further on the front, so that's what makes it easier to penetrate. Now, side scraping is good. It's got good side armor, but because of this plate here being weak, it actually struggles to side scrape all the time. If you expose this frontal plate, just like on an IS-4 trying to side scrape, it will be penetrated, so don't expose that. The turret armor, yeah, it's just ridiculous. The turret really doesn't have any weak spots until you get to the side. That's where high explosive shells from 150s, if you are aiming at the side of this tank, this will penetrate. You can't pen the side because it's actually very, very thick, as you can see, but if you're going to shoot HE at the side of this tank, if you got hash or anything like that, shoot right at the back of the turret because the front's thicker, but the back, easy pens all day. The rear of this tank, only 60 millimeters thick, very easy to penetrate, and the rear of the turret as well, 60. So it's got good armor on the front, but very weak armor on the sides, just like it should be in my personal opinion. So I think Wargaming actually balanced this tank very, very, very well. So now let's make our way back into the garage and let's go over some replays so we can talk about the vehicle. So I think literally the last two games I played in the tanks were both mastery. So let's pull up the Dynasties replay first, and I can show you the good things and the bad things about the vehicle being hauled down. So we can, we can just sit here and enjoy the replay. So, as I said, you want to be hull down when you're running this vehicle. Think of it almost like a Kronwagen. You can see, though, that it's mobile. It's actually very, very mobile. This was the last game I played on live stream, and after, it took me about, I'd say, 10 or so games to figure out how to play the tank. But you got to be careful because, as I said, it's massive. Like, this is honestly the same size as a mouse, in my opinion. And it's a mouse without side armor. And that's an issue because when you're turning your turret to shoot somebody else, it's going to get penned every time. You have to know who's in front of you. That's a big weakness with the vehicle. And you can also see that the pen isn't the most, but it's still very, very nice on cutting through armor. Now, that average damage of 480 is so, so nice. Being able to rip that T55A just to 500 hit points in a singular shell, and then I'm just going to tap him again. This is where the vehicle is going to be super nice. But as I said, that cupola on the roof, as you can see, I got slammed right in it. It sometimes is a very, very big weak spot. But we are bouncing shells from the T55A. I wanted to shoot that Kron because this 55 is, yeah, he's not necessarily the best of players, but you can see the armor still working quite well. The 55A is bouncing us. We've already blocked 1,200 damage. You can see I'm wiggling that gun, trying to get the bounces from that Kron, but there you go. Finishing off the 55A. Pretty good so far. Then we've got the Kronwagen sitting in mid still. Now, the Kron is a good counter to this vehicle, but the thing is that we've got the DPM over a Kron. We not only have the DPM, but again, that Alpha. Watch how much damage this rolls for. 560. It's so nice, and that's not even like a super high roll. This thing can roll up to 600 damage in a standard shell, which just feels so good. Now, I actually don't know where he pens me with that shell. I think he went into our lower plate, but just the fact that this thing can roll so high, again, you're going to see him turn his turret, and we're going to get another 515 roll. Like, that's ridiculous how much damage this tank is able to do. In 2 shells, we have dealt almost 1,100 damage, and because of that, I'm loving this tank. As many of you know, I think Alpha is key. And the ability to roll so high on a vehicle like that is super, super nice. We've already blocked 2,000 damage this game, which is already very impressive. That's more than you probably block in your average mouse game. We got like the E75 here. Because of that good mobility, we're able to get a nice snap into the side of him for 370. And that's funny because that's a low roll for the vehicle. I don't think I'm ever going to get used to the average damage on this tank, being able to low roll. Now, I wanted to shoot this Foch, of course, because that's a very deadly target. And as you can see, the gun's got good snapshot capabilities, good aiming time on the move. Really, it's got a lot of good things going for it. So the VK90 here, he's trying to poke me, and there you go, another bounce. And as we know, the VK90's got super good standard pens. The fact that he bounced me right on that upper plate shows you that this turret is really super strong. 2,410 damage block this game. And well, as you can see, we're going to aim in one more shell right on his lower part, another 522 roll. I'm loving this tank. It is really all that I wanted. It's got the weak lower plate, as you can see, and one thing I pointed out on stream is that the lower plate actually has two angles, as you'll notice. It's got a steep angle on the lower part, and then it actually angles to a little bit of a flatter part. But the funny thing is, it's a bit of a trick, because the upper part of the lower plate is actually thicker than the lower part. So it's kind of weird how it works, but yeah, it's a weird tank, but I think it looks great. And it plays just as well. So there you go. That was the first game we played in it. Of course, pulling out those masteries, because not a lot of people have their hands on this tank as of yet. In fact, I would say I'm one of the few people that actually have this tank in their garage for actually spending money. In fact, I bet I'm the first person to actually have it for how quick I was able to get it. So the second game here on Oasis, we'll skip past a little bit just so we can get in the position. But as you can see, I'm getting in the position just as quick as a vehicle like the E3 using speed boost, just as quick as these medium tanks on the team because of that ridiculous mobility. Now, you will notice there are a couple issues with the gun. The aiming time is not the best, and as you can see, it does struggle at distance. But the thing is that one thing I'll always say about the 252 is, well, yeah, you're not using the tank at distance. It's supposed to be a front line heavy, which is weird when you think about it. But to be fair, this shot here, yeah, that made up for it. That was a sweet shot and a half. So we've already done a decent amount of damage. Now, the turret traverse on this vehicle as well is actually quite strong as it is. You'll notice that the Jagdpanzer here doesn't actually shoot an AP shell. I thought he penned me, but I knew that in a hull down position, he can't pen me. So he actually ended up firing an HE shell. And again, you can see some of the issues with the gun on this tank. It does struggle on the accuracy. It's not the worst. It's .344, which is still better than your average 130. My 5A is .352, and an IS-7 is .362. So the fact that a vehicle like this, which carries more alpha and a more better aiming time, yes, my English, but a better aiming time as well, can snap somebody like this, is quite ridiculous. I do think that the vehicle is a little strong, and not a little strong in like, you know, as I said, I don't think it's overpowered, but I do think that the vehicle is stronger than every other heavy, and I do think that this is currently the strongest tier 10 in Blitz, if you know how to play it correctly. You can see that again, though, the turret's weak. That's why I'm not going to say it's overpowered, is because it can very easily be countered. And while I can say that, yes, it will be better than most of the other tier 10s that you're coming up against, it still can be countered, and especially for the average player that's probably going to be trying to get their hands on this vehicle. I know a lot of Unicoms probably aren't going to try and drop $600 to get their hands on this tank. It's definitely something that you don't want to think is overpowered, because if you drive it like I did, I always thought that this tank was going to be ludicrously OP. If you drive it like I did the first couple of games, you'll notice that it falls apart very quickly if you don't get in the best of scenarios. If you get caught out in the open, it's really, really poor. But the armor works a lot of the times. But you'll notice here that this Kron's easily able to penetrate through my lower plate once I was trying to work haul down there. But again, that super nice alpha able to rip through the Kronwagen there. There's a nice 515 roll. It also weighs quite a bit. This thing is going to be fantastic for ramming. I would definitely suggest to put rammer rig or whatever it's called on this vehicle. There's another 554 roll. Like, you can see the rolls on this tank are ridiculous. But there you go. That was a good game. 3,500 damage this battle because of that blind shot on the WT, and honestly, I'm loving this tank. So, is it worth the price to gamble? As I said in the beginning, no. Do not gamble to try and get this tank. If you want to get the other vehicles in the auctions and the snow globes as well, go ahead. But do not expect to get your hands on the AMX M4 in this Blitzer. It's a 1% drop chance. So unless you're a rich billionaire out there who's got $600 to $5,000 to spend on this tank, I would definitely suggest save your money and just ignore the AMX, pretend like it doesn't even exist, wait for it to come out. Honestly, in crates, you have a better chance in getting the vehicle in the Blitz Fair. So hopefully you enjoyed today's video. As always, if you did, please consider smashing that subscribe button down below. But other than that, hopefully all of you are doing well out there. Stay happy, stay healthy, and to be seeing you in the next one.